إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين قل بفضل الله وبرحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا هو خير مما يجمعون صدق الله العظيم. My respected brothers and my sisters, before I will start my talk, I want to share with you one saying of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. He said at one point, if somebody has 1 hour of contemplation, pondering, tadabbur on the ayat, nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that 1 hour is better than ibadah of 1,000 years. And somebody asked Imam that why you have said that 1 hour is better than 1,000 years ibadah. He said, because after 1 hour of pondering, tadabbur, the level of iman, the feeling you will have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be such that when you will go for His ibadah, the situation of your ibadah, the station of your ibadah, the level of your ibadah, the level of your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be at a different station. So inshallah today in my 30 minutes, I will give you few points that we can make sure that we can really understand the true spirit of this month of Ramadan. There are 2 basic rules we have to understand when it comes to ibadah. The first rule is, my brothers and my sisters, the main motivation, the driving force of ibadah should be love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This should be our main driving force. Number 2, for ibadah, we should always go backward until we reach to the feet of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to understand the true spirit, the ruh, the meaning, so that we can practice with same spirit and ruh the ibadah taught by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My brothers, for Sahaba, Ramadan was the source of inspiration. That's why in certain narrations it comes, for 6 months before Ramadan, they were looking forward to see Ramadan. They were praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them this opportunity that they can witness Ramadan. 6 months before Ramadan was preparation for Ramadan. See the love of Ramadan in their hearts. And after spending these 30 days of exercise and drill, and they have defeated their tongue, their throat, their thoughts, their eyes, and their heart was the winner for 30 days. This drill, this exercise, when the main goal was they want taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After 30 days of this tarbiyah program, tarbiyah course, tarbiyah summit, they were ready for next 6 months to use the inspiration, uplifting they have learned during the month of Ramadan. So next 6 months was they were getting help of the way they have spent their Ramadan. My brothers, for Sahaba, they always had bigger picture of this deen in front of them. Their focus was akhirah. Whatever they were doing, they wanted to make sure we get nothing but the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inni zanantu anni mulaqin hisabiya. That they were always worried about the standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when nobody will be there to help them out. They were always seeing the bigger picture. That's why the meaning, the focus in everything they were doing was at a different level. Their tahajjud was not 2 rakah or 4 rakah or 6 rakah. Rather, waking up for tahajjud for them was the concern they had for the community, for humanity. That in the daytime they have to go out and reach out to the hearts of the people to give this message of Islam. That's why that concern was making them stand up at night in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they were paying zakah, it was not 2.5% money going out of their pocket now. They wanted to take away this love of money they have from their hearts. If they were sisters doing hijab or brothers, they were also asked to keep their gaze down. It was not just a garment they were putting on themselves or keeping their gaze down. Rather, they have haya inside of them, which can teach them how to live a life. As Sheikh Hatim al-Assam has said, that I have developed this fear, love of Allah, this tawakkul of Allah. One of the point he said, because I have haya from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I cannot hide from the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala no matter where I am. When Allah is seeing me, that haya keeps me in the boundaries set by Allah and His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brothers, when they were praying, doing Salah, Salah was the main thing for them. You know, if they were having hard time, difficult time, the thing they will run towards is Salah. Because Salah, prayer, has same status in ibadat what Tawheed has in Imaniyat. You have to remember this prayer. I'm going to talk inshallah a little bit later on about Salah as well. But we can connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Salah in the best possible way. When these Sahaba, because of having bigger picture of this deen, when they were raising their hands for dua, those were not empty words. Not empty words, my brothers and my sisters. Words don't get caught in the struggle of words. Dua is the sound coming from your heart. Dua is a connection of your heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So dua which is with empty words, my mind is somewhere else, my heart is somewhere else, wallahi, that dua cannot fly very high. And as Prophet ﷺ has said, if you make dua and that dua is without a action, this is like you are throwing an arrow, but when you are throwing that arrow, the archer you have has no rubber in the back to make any momentum, to make it fly. My brothers and my sisters, for the reason of having a bigger picture for Sahaba, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they were trying to imitate him, they were not just trying to imitate his physical appearance, rather they were trying to imitate his actions as well. Did you understand these 4 or 5 things I have said? Their level of understanding the spirit, the ruh of all the ibadat was at different level, my brothers and my sisters. Another thing we see when we go and read the history of the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for Sahaba, the priorities of life were different. They have set the right priority, what comes first and what comes next. There is a book written by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Priorities in Deen. Wallahi, if you read that book, you will understand that our priorities are messed up. And today when we are going through what we are going through, we are realizing, There is a book written by a nurse. She was an ICU nurse, and she has written the 5 biggest regrets of people on deathbed, because in ICU patients die every day. So she has written a book in which she has written the biggest regret of the people at the moment of death. And one of the regret was that we spent time in things which we were not supposed to. We had wrong priorities in our life. We were running for things which have no big value in our life. We sacrificed our family, we sacrificed our relationships, we sacrificed our religion, we sacrificed everything for things which we were not even able to use. These were the regrets of the people, my brothers. And to set the right priority of the life, my brothers and my sisters. For Sahaba, the main focus of Ramadan was Taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For them, Ramadan was not simple feast and festivity. Rather, for them, Ramadan was simple and focused. Simple and focused. And when I say simple, wallahi, I mean it. In our homes, our sisters, they cook half of the day the iftar. They have no time for salah, for ibadah, going back to Quran. I say to my family, and I will request all of you to say to your wife that be simple in this month of Ramadan. We will try to have the same culture what Sahaba used to have. Let's have more focus on getting taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spending more time in ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will request, make this Ramadan simple and focused, my brothers and my sisters. And whenever we fast or whatever ibadah we do in this month or all year long, remember one thing: try to beautify your ibadah with ikhlas, with sincerity, with effort. Put some invest in your ibadah. Try to focus, create that culture where you can have a better connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most of the time our attitude is that we want to just check. I did my fasting, I did my salah. I don't speak Punjabi, but there is a phrase in Punjabi, I don't know how I can translate that in English, and that is le phad. Le phad means, okay, whatever assignment you have given is done. Get over with it. Half baked, half cooked. Just get over, pass. I just put a check mark. Yes, I'm done with it. Let's go for next. No. When it comes to ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what you are doing, this attitude is the biggest killer, my brothers. Spend time. Connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember what I said in the beginning, said by Imam Taymiyyah, rahmatullah alayh, that is, bring the quality, beautify your ibadah, my brothers and my sisters. I'm going to spend now 15 minutes I have left on taqwa, which is the main focus and goal of Ramadan, my brothers and my sister. What is taqwa? Taqwa, piety, God conscious, God fearing, love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, station of your heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullah alayh has given a beautiful definition to taqwa. He says taqwa is that you avoid everything forbidden by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything else you do is ihsan, I will give you a few more definitions. Ibn Qayyim has said the definition of taqwa. Ibn Qayyim has said one thing, taqwa is fear of losing love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa is fear that you are worried, you are concerned of losing love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why you are always God conscious. You are always worried how you can keep the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with you. So taqwa is not a fear of somebody that you run away. Imam Ibn Qayyim has said this, fear of this dunya, if you have with something, you will run away from that thing. But when you have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you run towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My brothers and my sisters, that is the difference of fear here, of anything of dunya and having fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because here the fear is that you do not want to lose the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maulana Maududi rahmatullah alayh has given a definition, very simple definition, and you will never forget that. He said, if you work in any workplace and your job is from 9 to 5, if you go at 9 o'clock and you finish 5 o'clock, this is taqwa, that you have fulfilled your duty as best as possible. But ihsan is that your job is 9 to 5, but you go way before 9 o'clock. And there is no time for you to go home at 5 o'clock. You have unless the job will get done, I will not leave. This is ihsan. So taqwa is that we fulfill our responsibility, and to beautify this connection relationship, that we should always have the station of ihsan. Inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin, because Allah loves the people who have ihsan. Ihsan is you go extra mile to fulfill your basic responsibility. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah has said at one point that he says that you should not be worried about the punishment after you do sin. Rather, you should be concerned and worried about the distancing happens, the distance created between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you should be worried about distancing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the sin, not for the punishment. So love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't want any distance from Him. I want to be close to Him, my brothers and my sisters, especially, this time. That's why some scholars, they say, when your roof is falling, you can run away from it. But when the sky is falling, then always try to go and connect yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right now, whatever is happening around us, my brothers and my sisters, sky is falling. That you see everywhere, there is the fear and khawf. People cannot go outside. Especially this time, we should make sure that we have connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now last 5-10 minutes I want to spend a little time on how we can develop this taqwa, my brothers and my sisters. First, try to understand the true spirit of fasting, true spirit of ibadah, true spirit of connection. Remember one thing, in Islam, it's not just important the numbers and the ritual. More important is the quality of worship, the quality of the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of time I have seen my brothers and my sisters, they are more worried about the numbers. They want 20 or 40 or 60 or 100. Do not worry about these numbers. Wallahi, even a little good deed we do, if it will be accepted in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be successful. We will be successful. And on that day, we want to be called successful, and maybe little thing Allah will accept, and He will call us, He will grant us His pleasure. Ameen Ya Rabbul Alameen. Few things. One thing, as brother was saying, brother Bassam, Sheikh Bassam, know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know His sifat, have some marifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more you will fall in love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, best of the time getting connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your prayer. And best of the time that you are connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your sujood. Best of the time that you can have connection one-to-one is Qiyamul Layl, my brothers and my sisters. I'm going to spend a little time on Qiyamul Layl. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَدَاجِعِ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ خَوْفًا وَطَمْعًا. This is the quality of these people who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They leave their beds to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there is a hadith Qudsi in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and it is narrated by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the one who has given us this message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah comes on the lower part of the sky, last part of the night, and He calls upon His servants, His abd. Is there anybody has any need? Anyone who need maghfirah? Any difficulty he want to present to me? My brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is coming down on the last sky and asking you and me. And that is the time, my brothers and sisters, that you have no distraction. And there is no riyah, there is nobody looking at you. It's just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why for all the Anbiya, getting up at night, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was mandatory. My brothers, we are at home, take advantage of it. Get up and you know, there is one of the hadith in which Prophet says Allah admires two type of people, and one of them on whom Allah admires is the one who leaves his comfortable bed at night time to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah admires, about this person. So let's try that we are one of those people that Allah admires about, my brothers and my sisters. The second thing I will suggest to you, my brothers and sisters, invest in your Salah. Invest in your Salah. Wallahi, we are 50, 60, 70 years old. We have prayed all of our life. But wallahi, the quality of our Salah, the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our Salah is so weak. Let's invest in our Salah. Because Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu one time wrote a letter to all his governors. And he said, take care of your Salah, your prayer, because if you will be able to take care of your Salah, you will be able to take care of rest of your affairs, rest of your deen. But if you will mess up your Salah, then you will not be able to protect rest of your deen. As I said before, Salah has same muqam in ibadat what Tawheed has in imaniyat, my brothers and my sisters. So in Salah, yes, we should focus on on many things, but the main thing is the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should make sure our tahara, we should make sure our rizq. Rizq, my brothers, will affect everything you do in this life. The rizq will affect your family, rizq will affect your ibadah, rizq will affect your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, this time Allah has given you and me of reflection on our life, that we were going in a wrong direction. In last 100 years, what humanity has done on this planet, that was never done on this planet for the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before it. We were arrogant. We were thinking like science is our guide. Science is going to take us from one station to next station, one level to another level. We were arrogant. We were ignorant. And we were violating the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right and left. Our focus was just money and dollar. And wallahi, we see how fragile the life is. That life can slip away from us any second. And whatever we have collected will be of no value. No value. The value stock market has lost in last 3 months $18 trillion. My brothers and my sisters, my point is, let's go back to our basics. Let's go back to our roots. Try to understand that our focus should be akhirah, because akhirah is khayran wa abqa, is better and everlasting. Whatever you and me will invest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there should be no fear of losing it. There should be no fear of we will lose the value and the appreciation will go down. No, this will always increase. That's why for Sahaba, Akhirah was their main focus. La aisha illa aisha al-akhirah. This was the song they used to sing when they were building Masjid al-Nabawi, and then when they were making their ditch for the battle of ditch, my brother, for Ghazwa Khandaq. So let's focus for Akhirah and let's revisit our life. Let's reset priorities of our life. Let's reconnect with our family. Let's unite our family. If in the past we have some issues with family members, let's resolve those issues. Brother, this life is very short, very short. So let's try to put everything in the right perspective. And this is the main message of today's talk. Let's put everything at the right perspective. Let's spend our Ramadan simple and focused. Let's invest in our Qiyamul Layl, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your own language. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, that's why he said, when you make dua in your own language so that you can connect your heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have manajat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Present all your case in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we read Surah Yusuf, this is the message of Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam, that whenever he had any hardship, going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what the tradition of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In the last, I will pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives you and me tawfiq, that He makes this Ramadan best Ramadan of our life. The opportunity He has given us, that we are at home, we have time. Let's revisit our lifestyle, our priorities of life. And let's make sure when we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to hear only one thing. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati wa akhiru dawana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.